Here's the Panasonic GH5 and the Panasonic GH5 Mark II. In this video, I'm going to talk about a few of the differences that I wasn't that much aware of or wasn't given that much attention in the Mark II, and the reasons why, the small reasons why I like the GH2 over the GH5 Mark I. If you're in the market for one of these cameras, I would recommend just go with the GH version 2, GH5 2. If you already have a GH5, a lot of people have been saying stick with the GH5, you don't need to upgrade. And to a certain extent, I agree, because the footage, for the most part, is very similar. So at the second half of this video, I'll show comparisons between these two with very similar identical settings, or as identical as I could make them, with the same focal length of the lenses. And I'll show if you can see a difference. I'll have them side by side. And so a lot of people are saying there really isn't that much of a difference, but there are a few things that I see as improvements in the GH5 II that makes it, for me, worth upgrading. So let me turn on both of these cameras. Oh, before I talk about the camera, the battery is an upgrade. So this is the battery that is in the GH5, or the GH3, GH4, GH5, GH5S. This is what the battery looks like. And then this is the battery for the GH5 Mark II. And this is also the battery, I believe, in the full frame, the Panasonic Lumix full frame cameras. They use this battery. You can use the old battery on the newer GH5 Mark II, but it doesn't work backwards. And also, if you have a charger, the chargers for the first battery will not work on the new battery. You have to get the new chargers. So the GH5 II comes shipped with this battery charger. It's a little different. But the good news is that if you had dummy batteries for the GH5 and the GH5S, so here's a blind spot with a dummy battery, and this is the battery for the GH5. These dummy batteries still work in the GH5 Mark II, and all of the old batteries, work in the GH5 Mark II. So I don't know if that's the best way to go about in the future to continue to use these older batteries on this, but if you had a bunch of dummy batteries, or these dummy batteries to have V-mount, or in this case, the blind spot to power the camera, they work fine. The menu systems and the displays are different. I really like the new display on the GH5 Mark II. See the audio bars here? These are way better audio bars than the audio bars in the GH5 and the GH5S and the GH4. They all have these. And I wish you can just, Panasonic would have a firmware update that would make these bars on the GH5 and the GH5S. But this whole layout is actually the same layout as a BGH1. Here's the BGH1, and I think it's also the same layout as the full frame. I'm not sure because I don't have the Panasonic full frame cameras, but I like that. And I also liked it's a really different menu system or menu layout. And I like the new menu layout of the Mark II. It's easier to navigate to. Also, when it comes to formats, there's more formats in the GH5 II that aren't in the GH5. This also comes pre-installed with Vlog, where you would have to get Vlog L separately. I think it's $100 for the GH5. The autofocus is slightly better. Everything with the GH5 II, when it comes to the usability, it is just a smidge better and faster than the GH5. For a lot of people, it's not worth getting the GH5 Mark II if you already have the GH5. But for me, all of those incremental improvements were made me want to get this. And also, this camera has the ability to live stream through the USB. So Panasonic makes a free webcam app. So if you download their app to your computer, Mac or Windows, and you plug this directly to your computer, this becomes a webcam. Can't do it with the GH5 Mark II. You have to use a capture card. And now here's some test footage with these two cameras. Okay, I have both cameras on, pointed at my dog. I tried to set it the same frame. They're both at 35 millimeter focal length. I have everything else set as close to the same settings as possible on both cameras. There's some lens flare on the GH5. I'll pull back and try to get that lens flare out of there. And it's on autofocus as well. The white balance is the manual daylight. And let me try to avoid that flare. Okay, this is Vlog L, and then I will put the LUT on there. And someone goes up a little bit. It doesn't seem like it's the same focal length, but it is. They're both at 35 millimeter. I've opened the window above my dog, so you can see more of a get dynamic range. A dynamic range. Now I'm comparing Cine D on the GH5 to Cine D2 version 2 on the GH5 2. All the other settings I try to match them as best as possible, and it does seem like the GH5 2 is wider. It looks like the GH5 2. Oh, the ISO is different. Okay, let me adjust the ISO here. Okay, now everything's the same. Now I'm outside and I'm shooting 422 10-bit 30p. ISO is 200 on both cameras. I have it on daylight white balance. It's at 1/60th shutter speed, and I'm shooting at f5. I have them both at 35 millimeters, and this is the Cine V picture profile. Stock, there's no changes to the profile. So on the GH5, it's the Cine V version 1. On the GH5 2, it's the Cine V version 2. I'm just looking at the back of the LCD screens on both cameras, and I do notice a difference in sharpness. They're both on autofocus. There's a blue shadow tint on the GH5 Mark II that's not on the GH5. The GH5 version 1 seems more color accurate, but we'll see when I bring these cameras into my editor. Here's a low light test. This is 30p, 10-bit 422. I'm shooting at ISO 200. It's 1/60th shutter speed because I'm shooting at 30p, and right now it's at f2.8. I'm gonna go to manual focus because once I go into really low light, I start to lose the autofocus. So I'm gonna switch to manual focus right now. Now both cameras are on manual focus, and I'm shooting a color chart, nothing too fancy. So this is pretty low light right now, but I'm gonna go really low. Now this is pretty low light. I can see with my eyes okay, the color chart, but I think these cameras, you can barely see it. So in the GH5, I'll start that first. So this is ISO 200. Now I'm gonna go to ISO 400. ISO 800, 16, 32, 64, 12,800. Ooh, that's too much. Let's go to 3200. 3200 looks okay. Now let's go to the GH5 Mark II. We're at 200 ISO. Now this is 400, 800, 1600. Now we're at 3200, 64, and then 12,800. Let's go down to 3200. And I'm shooting at the Cine V picture profile, which isn't the best picture profile to do in low light because it's very contrasty. So I'll just keep that in mind. But this is what both cameras look like at ISO 3200. I'm gonna dim the lights even more. Now we're really low light. I could barely see the color chart. So now this is ISO 3200. On the GH5, let's go all the way up to 12,800. So this is 12,800 ISO. And then with the GH5 Mark II, let's go to 12,800. There we go. So now they're both at 12,800 ISO f2.8. So they're not fast lenses. Let me try a different picture profile and let's see if that makes a difference. Now I'm shooting on Cine D picture profile. It's still at 12,800 ISO f2.8, and the GH5 is the Cine D version 1, and then the GH5 Mark II has Cine D version 2. Based off of the LCD, it looks like the GH5 is better in low light, which shouldn't be the case, but I guess so. I guess it is. That's just from the LCDs. Maybe when I look at it in the editing system, my editing system, I'll see a difference. But right now, looking at the LCD of the cameras, it looks like the GH5 is better in low light. Interesting.